Welcome back to another episode of What on Earth is Happening discussion. We are on episode number 10. Ryder, it's good to see you. This is such an important podcast, body of knowledge, and it shouldn't be done alone. I highly recommend that you do it with folks where you can have discussions, and really grateful that Ryder, my son, is willing to have the discussions as we go through this. All right, episode number 10. Another good one. Some key points. What was your favorite or biggest takeaway?
How I'm going to be able to not let myself get tied or chained down to the institutional into the belief of money in general. I still need that. I still need that to exist.
Yeah.
But how do I do that without actually thinking that that's the most important thing?
Yeah. Yes, when I first heard that, and when he was talking about money and the one eye, and really just spelling out what's right there in front of us, it shook me, and I felt uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, because yes, it's, we live in a society where most are very much controlled by that. When you were saying how do you not get stuck in that institutionalized thinking? So just from what your perspective is with regards to that, how do you see it showing up for yourself? I mean, was there a shift in your own understanding when you heard that?
Not really, because you've already kind of really, like, there was a while ago that I've been with all of us together. We looked back, okay, money is just a construct. When we did the Jekyll Island podcast in those.
Right. It's a control mechanism. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And yet we're still in it. So I get it. Yeah. I mean, we're still day in, day out participating in that. And I'm sure Mark does as well. I know he has services in the exchange, right? Yeah. They go through that. One of the when you mess with the microphone, it's really loud. That's the crummy thing about those Yetis, is they pick up everything. So if we look at it as being non-existent in nature, money, one eye, and then look at it from the perspective that, going one back further, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, where he talks about the ego being a tool.
Yeah.
And then the tool becomes the master. I think that that's what's happened here. Although he did say that it was originally created by occultists. And so in that way, potentially to use it to control. But like
the
with
question
the ego,
is, though, how is that? How is what, like, money was created by the cultists, or the ego was?
Money, because the ego is just part of
everyone's born with that.
Yes, it's what makes you. It's what makes, as he was saying, differentiating between me putting food in my mouth versus your mouth, because I know who I am versus we're all one. So if we look at it that way with regards to money, it was originally potentially a tool, or it can be a tool, or we can use it as a tool versus it being something, I don't know enough about it. I don't have the information on where it originally started, and when he did talk about how silver, and even though that's metal, but the whole construct of money, I think it goes into materialism, so much so, because materialism is that piece. So yeah, that did stand out for me the very first time I listened to this one. And then when he then unpacked the institutions of government,
Mm.
religion. I can see that significantly with regards to the religions I was brought up in. And then police, military, those institutionalized. And you know, when you talked about the being, what was it, committed to an institution, and how you can, how he was making a joke about it, but it was literal, like committed to an institution is like crazy town, crazy being committed, but then committed to an institution. I think that that's, that was interesting as well.
So the question with that, I'm curious about, which do you think came first? Which is commitment supposed to be? Is it supposed? Am I supposed to now go forward with the understanding that commitment is, like you said, like that institution, like you're being put in an insane asylum? Are you committed to this, or is it something that I still should be using as, okay, I'm committed to doing this, no matter, and I'm going to follow through with this?
Well, I could ask you because you had Latin. If we go back to the root of it, what does it actually come? Where does it come from, right? So you can go and look at commit, right? So it looks like you're researching it. Go and look at that, and then we could break down institution as well. If an institute, what is an institute, right? So we have a religious institute, a governmental institute, an educational institute. So what does it say?
Yeah, it is. Yes, a society or organization founded for a purpose, or an established law, practice, or custom.
You're looking at institute then, institution. Yeah. What
Institution.
was
Yeah, 'cause
committed? What was the derivation etymology of committed?
it's the state of being, let's see, dedicated to a cause, activity, or an engagement or obligation that restricts freedom of action. Business commitments, as the example,
Interesting.
which is
It's
where
kind
it
of
comes.
interesting. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. I think that that's, you know, Mark talks a lot about this, about educating yourself and reading and studying. And, you know, he doesn't necessarily talk about clearing up your words, but getting more into the etymology and understanding where words come from can really help loosen the ties of mind control. I was going to say something about, anyway, I don't remember what I was going to say, but I'm curious with regards to, he mentioned requirements to making it true with regards to the scope of love versus fear, right? So we've got love and fear on the same
Yeah, because
line.
fear is just the absence of love, as he defines it.
Yeah. And so,
which is interesting though, because does that mean then, so when you're in, is he changing the definition of fear, or is, because my understanding of fear before was that it was a primal emotion that the body was putting, that would put you into when you were in danger, so your body would react accordingly. Did he change that, or like, is that, because that's the thing, right? Because if I'm in danger, and obviously fearful doesn't just, there's different like levels of that, there's different forms of that. That doesn't necessarily mean you're like shaking or you're freezing up or something. That also means you just don't want to be in an environment. If there's something that's dangerous, should I not be afraid of that and try to save myself? Because self-preservation is an important thing, because without that, then there's no reason to, like, if you're not willing to preserve your body in the first place, then there's not really a reason to try to live in accordance with, okay, how do you benefit the vessel that you're using?
I love this. I love this. This is stimulation of the intellect to have a discussion like this and start thinking these things through a little bit. Very, very good. This is to me what pops someone out of the illusion, the illusory game of fear and mind control, right? Because you can actually think. And so that is definitely interesting, right? We can absolutely look at that. I do look at fear like, oh yeah, I want those senses and I want to understand it.
It's not a bad thing.
Right. So many are stuck in that though and misidentifying, and that goes back to the five senses, five sense illusion, and then the ego identification, right? Are you hitting the microphone?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I keep hearing it. So
I don't know what's happening. Okay.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So with some of the things he talked about, he says chaos is created by control, the lack of self-rulership.
Chaos is created by what? By control?
By the game of control, hierarchy, rulership, and the lack of self-rulership.
Yeah, that would make sense because it works both ways, where you don't have to think or you don't have to make decisions for yourself. You either go down one path of just becoming a mindless drone, or you don't have any responsibility, so you're just going to kind of do whatever because it's not your fault.
Right. Yeah. And so many want to take no responsibility or self-ownership, or to even control their own thoughts and know that, yeah. So then another one is he talked about the extermination of the imagination is mind control.
That's true. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because that's the only way that people come up with things or come up with ideas.
Yep. Yeah. So let's go back to your fear and knowing that it's not bad or good. It's just
It is
on the spectrum, just like hot or cold is just
right.
It's, right.
What they just put in it was like, okay, cold is the absence of heat because there's no energy. But looking in like engineering and researching like how physics and certain physics work, there is energy in cold as well. And it's not just the absence of heat. You can make things cold. Like he used the example that, okay, I want to make this water cold, so I'm going to put it in a teapot and put it on a stove. Okay, well, if you wanted to make it cold, you could then use, a refrigerator, I guess, or a freezer, but like actually using certain principles of nature, like how you can make like naturally occurring ice or naturally occurring, like the things that you can do. It's not just the absence of one or the other necessarily. I mean, I understand what he's saying. Like if you go to Antarctica, it's like there's no heat there, but the sun's still there. If you go to places that have a lot of, like if you go to some places in Canada where there's just a lot of snow or ice everywhere, there's still the sun. There still is heat. It's just less. It's not that it's completely gone. That's one thing, is like if there was truly absent of any heat, there isn't much you can really do but die, because like humans need heat to survive, or at least the body needs heat to survive, because that's how it keeps your organs pumping. We're not cold-blooded.
Yeah. So now let's take that over to fear and love.
Yeah, I don't need to not love something to be afraid of it. It's not that I can still love I can still like really enjoy learning about snakes or sharks, I'm not going to be near a snake or a shark if I see it. Like if I'm in the ocean, I will constantly be feeling fear. It's not that I don't love it. It's just that, okay, well, I also have to be careful because there are animals right now that could, and not on purpose, whether it's not on purpose or not, that could hurt me. So there's no reason for me to think, okay, I don't love it. That's why. Because, I mean, the institutionalized belief of love, the opposite of love is hate. That's what people think is that, right? You love and you hate things versus you love and you fear. But I don't necessarily think that fear is as attached to love as as he's making it seem. Because that's not fear is not an emotion. It's I think I'll separate it. So emotions and feelings are different things, right? That's what I'll say. Because you can feel certain things but still be other things. Like I could still be super happy, but also still feel fear and decide, okay, I'm going to preserve my happiness by going this way now. Can those not exist? Can those things not exist? I can be super excited, see something, feel fear, and then get away from it. If you're going through a jungle, you're super intrigued and it's all awesome, and then you see a giant animal. Well, you're gonna feel fear no matter what, even if it's a little bit. Those two things are occupying that space. Even if you feel love, because I think the main thing is because you can feel love and still be afraid. If you're with somebody you love and then you see something that you're afraid of, you can still feel the love for the person, but then also be afraid. Like, okay, the fear is preserving us. Let's leave now.
This is good. This is, I mean, I don't need to say good or bad. This is just real. This is so interesting to me and so great to be able to have this discussion. I mean, I don't have a specific answer on it, right? So what you're saying
I'm not looking
very
for an
interesting.
answer here. I'm just coming up with ideas.
Yeah. Very interesting that. Yeah. So fear and being afraid of fear or hating fear is not
that's
useful.
Just what's been peddled, and that's what he's like. If Mark is talking about that kind of what people traditionally think fear, or like what the majority populace think fear is, okay, that makes sense. You could that would make sense. But like actual true fear is a safe thing and is a safety mechanism. Like you need that. If you didn't have that, you would put yourself in a lot of dangerous situations. Have you seen the videos of like kids who are picking up animals, playing with snakes or like stuff like that because they haven't like learned to be afraid of it yet? There's videos where you'll see like there's little toddlers and they're like giant anacondas or giant like spiders or something, and they're not afraid of it. And it's like an interesting thing. Like, okay, you haven't been taught fear, but it's not that you haven't been taught. You don't know any better. That's ignorance there. Because okay, you're playing with this, but but this thing could hurt. This thing could kill you.
Could the snake kill it?
Yes.
It's a venomous snake.
Yes, or even if it's not, what if it's an anaconda? This tiny child, this thing could absolutely kill it if it wanted to. Now the animals are also not inherently evil, and they're not necessarily going to do that, but it's important it's unique because you don't have respect for it yet. I think fear is closer to a form of respect. You respect the fact that this thing could injure you, so you're going to give it space because you feel like this feeling of fear. Like I know what could happen. I know what it could do. So I will respect its space and respect my life by not just doing something stupid and trying to engage it. Like with a rattlesnake, right? You will, any person on the planet will feel a little bit of fear when you hear that rattle because you know what that means. Because your response is, okay, this means I need to be careful now. Because it's not going to completely control you and make you run away. It's just it's changing whatever you were doing before. If you hear this response, if you hear this rattle, you then respond to that rattle by looking around your feet and then walking the place that's safe. Because that means you're still safe if you hear that.
So now let's
fear.
Yeah, so now let's look at the different tools, the different mechanisms that have been used for mind control to deliberately put a man or a woman or an individual into fear so that they are mind controlled. So how
There's
is that
statistics
used?
that people are peddled that, okay, 80% of crime is done by black people. So you have that, and then they're constantly, the first thing they do is constantly put you in a state of input where like you're taken away, you can't think for yourself, you're not understanding what's happening, you're not understanding your feelings. Because then they can input certain ideas that if you look at it from an outside perspective, it's like, okay, well, that doesn't really matter. This is just one piece of paper that you can add, but it's not showing you the whole picture. And then they're taking that at face value because that's all they can do. Because they're constantly looking for a way out.
What's
That's why,
constantly looking for a way out?
because when you're in a state of like, okay, I'm not safe, something could go wrong here, I need to find the safest path that will keep my body preserved and that will keep my mind preserved, then they can control that by constantly putting you in that state where you're constantly looking for a way out. And they can give you, and then instead of actually giving you a way out, all they're doing is taking away the fear and then giving it back. So that's how they're just, it's like punishment response. You're constantly in a state of pain, and then when you don't have pain, that's when you think you're being rewarded. So people are constantly put in this state of like their fear senses are being overstimulated to the point where it's not healthy anymore. And then whenever they don't have it, they feel like that should be the normal. Or that's not even normal, that is what that's what they're looking for all the time. That's what they're seeking out, instead of that just being how they live normally.
It sounds insane, right? I mean, as I'm listening, it's like, what an insane way to live. But that's kind of that's how people are living. Exactly.
Yeah.
In the game and the institution, government institutions, even money, talk about fear and keeping people completely fear of complete. Yeah.
And you see, they're not afraid of money. Exactly. They're not afraid of the IRS. They're not afraid of this, right? They're not actually afraid of those things. What are they afraid of deeply? Like, what are they actually afraid of there? That their way of life is nullified, or that they no longer can provide for themselves or for others, and that because eventually like their body would just give out if they can't provide for themselves, like shelter, food, water, whatever. That's what they're afraid of, and that's being manipulated into, oh, you're actually afraid of not having money, but that's not what it is. You ask people like, okay, you're making money because you need money to pay the bills, okay, all of this stuff. They're not afraid of an actual dollar bill or the concept of having no money. They're afraid of not being able to pay for this thing. If you ask them, like right now, I don't have any money on me, exactly, right? A lot of people probably don't right now if they're inside, if they're at their home. But as soon as but that's like the idea that's being pushed, that they're afraid of. Like, you don't have any money on you right now, and you can't pay for things. You can't do this and that. And because of that, that's where people were able, or that's where the government was able to pressure the idea of credit cards or like just that this is like going back into the way of control, which is they're giving them an access like with a credit card, and this is how you can pay for things. And because look at how you pay for things when you have a card. You look at your bank, you see a number, it either goes up or it goes down. You don't actually have any physical, tangible evidence that this exists. For all you know, there is nothing in the bank, and this is just being lied to you. So they're not afraid of losing money or not having money. It's that they're afraid of what would happen if you can't pay for things. If you cannot pay for yourself, like if you can't keep yourself alive. Because that's been like for a really long time. I think like for like at least 20 or 30 years at minimum, I think probably much longer. The idea has been that without money and you can't pay for things, you'll die, and you just won't, like, you can't, or you won't live comfortably, or you you'll have to start begging or whatever. And now it's like, and that's just been planted for so long that what we see now is just people who have no idea what they're actually afraid of, because they're just constantly being stimulated in that direction when they have to think about money.
And it's the
So they're-
extermination of the imagination. What a
because all you
straight
have to
from
do
that.
now, exactly. So that's why they can be controlled so easily,
Mm-hmm.
because they put you in this state and then show you the way out, which is not the only way, but to you it is, because you're just looking for anything.
That is so indicative and like a microcosm of all of these institutional constructs, from religion that's been going on for centuries, and government and police, all of it. It's so interesting how simple it is, just listening to you. And it's so easy to get exterior to it, to be exterior to it and not be caught into it when you're just listening to it, because it's like, of course, it's common sense, you'd think, but it's so not common. And even with folks that I'm close to have discussions and to hear them so strong on their views that it's essential for government, and really buying into all of the institutionalized, the red and the blue and the left and the right. And as I listen to them, there comes up in me, like I can feel stress and feel like fear. It is fear.
Yeah.
That I'm alone, that I'm the only one that sees how crazy this is.
Right, that your mind is free. And that's another way that they're keeping it, right? Because that's how they keep people like you or people like me in that state as well. Because the others are so lost, and it's so hard to and because it's so hard to show them the right way, or or what we think is the right way, you feel alone, because you're the only because you have your imagination left. Like they're trapping our minds in our bodies. They're trapping our minds in ourselves, basically. That's how they get to people like us, or like Mark, or people who are thinking about that, because they cannot actually they can't take away our imagination, but they can confine it in a prison that we kind of have to make.
Yeah. And ultimately we are the ones that are making it, and it's being directed, and all of our attention being specifically manipulated. I've been reading this book called Stolen Focus, and I highly recommend it. It's Johann Hari, and he has interviewed so many of these folks that are in Silicon Valley, and the folks that have worked at Google, and then were in the educational institutions. One of the professors was B.J. Fogg, and B.J. Fogg was very interested in educating his students on the ethical belief, on ethics when it comes to the things that the Google, the company of Google and Facebook and all of these apps were doing, because a lot of his students came out of his classes with regards to utilizing and focusing attention to direct someone's attention. And the whole purpose of these businesses of Google and Facebook and the Snapchat is to keep you coming back and spend as much of your attention there as possible, right? That's their whole business model. So when one of the students who ended up working at Google brought to the attention of the ethics regarding this, that this is slavery, that this is literally this is mind control, they moved him into a position of made a position for him at Google, ethicism or something regarding ethics. And for 2 years, Tristan's worked there and just continued to get despondent, because the whole point was to keep people mind controlled. And it's fascinating to me that this is, I mean, this is, how can you not know this? How can you not know that literally the whole government scheme is 100% mind control? You know,
Yeah.
it's just, it's bizarre to me, and I'm not sure why I went off on that tangent. So I want to.
Well, that's an interesting point, because the person who is thinking ethically, right? That person who brought it up, that this is mine. So what did they do to control that person? They gave him his own little station where he could do no damage at all, basically. He could think like he was doing something. But what ended up happening there, right? Did it actually change anything?
No, not at all. And after 2 years, he quit because it was just totally depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they put him in that state. So he left the same as anyone else.
Yeah. So there are those that want to make a difference. I know that there's that, but
there are those who want to make a difference, but there's also so many ways of being able to control those types of people.
Yeah, I'm curious. So 2 questions. The first is, I'm curious, and this is heavy, because certainly as a mom, I want, I think about 7 generations. I always think about that. If what I'm doing right now, how is it impacting 7 generations? And I think the world collectively is not going in an optimal direction, that in 7 generations, where will folks be if we continue this route? Most of it, they'll be robots. I mean, I think that's.
I actually think like that is a way, but I actually see it different. I think it's going to be the exact same as it is now, and there's not going to be any change. They're just going to be even more and more removed from personal identity, and they're just going to be more connected to the computers. Because why would they change it for total control? That we're going to have total control of the mind already. They don't need to control the body if you have control of the mind.
Well,
the way that Mark is talking is the exact same way 10 years ago. And realistically, I mean, besides like a few things here and there, it's the exact same thing.
I disagree. Exactly. And 15 years ago,
that's what I'm saying. They have more control by doing less, though. They don't need to put people in actual robots. They don't need to. They can peddle the idea of microchips or whatever, but they're getting so much control of the mind already that they will probably, and they probably found things that work, which we're seeing, like especially with the internet crazes and how they're affecting like children and kids, that more than likely they will just put all their eggs. Actually, they won't do that, because this is an intelligent enemy. They'll just use that path until it stops working, which is, okay, we can probably use this for the next 20, 30 years and just only use this, because the kids who are 10, 5 to 10 now will be 30, 40. That'll be the workforce. They'll be, and then their generation, and then that's when we can start peddling the new one. But I don't think for the next probably 30 or 40, maybe 50 years, there's going to be any drastic change to the bodies. It's just going to be more and more of the minds, because the kids will have grown up, and then they will have kids, and then that is what the enemy will dive in on, are the kids of the younger ones now, because they're already they have their ideas of what they should be doing as children, that they will share that, they will peddle that idea, and then that's where the government can attack there. And they don't even need to do anything. They don't need to put people into robot bodies. They don't need to physically plug anybody in. They don't need to do anything like the Matrix, because that's too much work for something that they can do much easier. And if we're actually going to respect the fact that these enemies have done this well and have planned this out, they're probably not going to do anything drastic. And they're just going to keep using the mind. And then in the future, if they ever actually need that, they can do that. But right now, I mean, it seems to be working just fine for them.
To keep everybody controlled in their bodies as slaves.
Yeah, it's by just enslaving the mind. They attack the mind. They don't, because a long time ago, they tried attacking the bodies, and it didn't really work out this much, because
a long time ago what do you mean by that?
I said by like with slavery, by putting people in slavery, but also like in Germany, like killing people. And then realizing.
See, I look at it differently, because the whole machine, let's just take BlackRock. They own the majority of food supply, the processed food, and most people most are eating that garbage. That's
Mhm.
keeping them sick. Then they're going in through the system and
Exactly.
they're in that system. So they are already controlled completely.
Yes, but you see how they changed it from like forcing it down their throats versus giving them this delicious, tasty option,
Well,
and
that
then they
it
make
goes
that
back to
choice
the mind
because
control
that's what
though.
they're doing. Exactly. But the thing is, that's how they got it to the point where they could mind control. That part wasn't mind control. That part was them thinking, "Oh, I have a choice. I'm going to choose to do this," and then they got used to it and over. And now their minds are they're pickled as you put them, and now they can control it there because they gave you the illusion of choice at the start.
Yeah.
Realistically, anybody who's eating and really diving could just say no more and just stop it. But who is actually going to do that? Nobody. Nobody
Nobody?
could do that
Well, I think
because
I think that there are those that are seeing that
those
they
who
cannot
could
keep living in this construct and do go off and create an alternative world of living off grid, living off the
absolutely,
land, living
but
in
people who are
nature.
doing, but that's the thing. People who are doing that never got. I'm talking about the people who, the majority, not those. I'm talking about like
Mm.
the
Those
majority
that
of the
are
people
not
who we
awake.
need. Right. Those who are not awake, none of the people who are asleep will. Even if you actually tell them, give them the stats, give them the reasons. No, they won't. They will actively fight against that because that's where the mind control is put in. Now that they chose to do this, they chose to take this food. Now they're stuck in that and they will fight against any other idea that opposes it
Hmm.
because it's easy now.
Hmm.
And think about how students for like doctors or learning to be engineers or any of this, like who are going to really advanced schools, right? How are they treated? How are they, like the generation who are going to be put in a very important role in society, are being treated? Okay, well, you know what you need? You need a bunch of debt. You need to study all the time, so you're super tired all the time. So this is your norm. Then you also need to have, okay, you can't cook or make home foods. You just go buy fast food or you go buy junk because that's all you can actually have time to eat because we're not going to give you any time. So the people, that's how they're directly attacking those people because those are the closest, the people who are in colleges who are actively studying, those are the closest things to being able to break themselves free because they're actually researching something, and then they'll understand about this and then think, oh, wait a minute, this is wrong, or oh, this is what it actually is. But now they're just being caught up and trapped, and they're being put in a prison, in an imaginary prison for the rest of their life. Every single doctor has had medical debt in their life. And that's the first prison. Every single doctor
Unless
has,
they had, yeah, unless they were independently wealthy. But yeah.
unless they were independent. But okay, but if they're independently wealthy, what does that probably mean? That means that they're probably somehow connected to what? And how many doctors were independently wealthy before? Like if it was their whole family, and then they're doing this because the whole family does it and they can pay for it without any debt. That is just something where that's awesome. That's generational.
Hmm.
Versus, and also they are probably somehow connected to the big, right, to the enemy or to the big group, like the big farm or whatever, if their
Yeah, I
family has
don't know.
actually been living. Because how many people do you know who are independently wealthy who are not connected? And I'm not saying even like a couple, like if you have millions, you have your own property and you're completely fine there. Not even that. I'm talking about people who are because even that isn't a lot. Even like you may,
Well, so yes, financially, I get that, but one of the things that keeps me sane is that I spend as much time as I can in nature. Just sitting on a rock where the fountain, the water's just flowing. And listening and being and feeling and allowing the allowing my mind to bring up things of my past that I need to uh,
clear.
clear and let go of, exactly, and those dark places that keep me stuck, keep me in a form of mind control that's self-imposed because of false beliefs. because of beliefs that I'm not worthy, that I'm not good enough, that I should have do this, or that I'm bad, or I am a money grubber, or this, all these things that have been told by others who are actually in fear, operating in fear, and then putting their projections on. And so that is something that is, and he did talk about this with regards to the shadow self, to be able to look at that part. And I've made it now a regular practice to do that. And then also a practice to spend time with myself and the what's going on in my inner world, because I am aware with regards to, let's say, the Hermetic principles of what is within. Your thoughts are creating the world, right? So you're projecting the world without, so that I can see how am I contributing to this collective consciousness with regards to the institutional beliefs. And it's taken me a while to come out of the money. It doesn't mean I don't still go get compensation for the work that I do, and then move money around in different digital ways, and take pieces of paper and hand it over so that I get my milk. But it's more intentional, and it goes to what he started to talk about at the end when the caller came in. I think he asked a question about, where do you go after death? And I thought that was really interesting, because that's a question that I don't personally ask, but I know many do. Like, some are really questioning UFOs and wanting to be involved in like what's out there. And Mark's answer was, I don't get involved with that. I'm here now. I'm be here now type of thing. And I think, that's useful. That is a really useful piece. And I'm curious as to how you address things, especially where, given you have very big goals, big dreams, and you're pursuing them. I'm curious how.
The first thing is the most obvious thing in the world for people who actually understand what infinity means. If the universe is truly infinite, there is other life. There you go. Easy. It has to happen if the universe is actually infinite.
I'm not talking specifically.
I just mean on aliens. I'm just, because that's a super easy answer. That's just a super easy answer for that.
Yeah.
Like, there is absolutely, if the universe is infinite, which what it probably is, right? We have no idea. We haven't even scratched the surface. We have no idea. We cannot, even me trying to think, we cannot actually imagine how big it actually is. Nobody can. You can paint an idea of it, but you have no idea. We cannot actually realize how vast the universe is, or how vast just even the galaxy is. We have pictures from but we have no idea. Wait, but like, okay, all these little dots are Earth. How big is Earth? And then there's like 50 of those little planets. Sure, maybe we're the only life here in the solar system with these 9 planets, but that's fine. I mean, that's like realistic. Like, by comparison, that's nothing. Sure, you go to an anthill, that's the only life there is. There's the ants, but there's no other bugs or anything. But then, okay, look at all. Just walk like 10 minutes this direction. Those ants, it would take them.
Well, what's really interesting is then if you take a microscope and you go in even further, that there's actually parasitic life forms on the ants, and that invade, and I mean, if you think,
there's
the fractals where it
that's what it means, infinite. That's what
that's how it's infinite small and infinite large.
Infinitely small, infinitely large. Like, there's never just black. There's never there's no concept of emptiness either. We can like, okay, this cup that I had that I was drinking tea out of is empty now, but because my idea of what it was full when it was full is now empty. There's nothing that's actually, space will never be empty. Like actual physical space will never be empty. No matter how small you go or how large you make, there is always there's always energy or life. If there wasn't, the universe would cease to exist.
Right. So let's tie it back to pure potentiality and the quantum field, the mass field of consciousness. So, and then come back to the whole purpose of what Passios did, why he even put together the What on Earth is Happening podcast, is because of truth, that he was dedicated to truth, is dedicated to truth. And I think that that's, to me, a worthy goal, like for myself, dedicating to truth, dedicating myself to truth, and being okay to say I was wrong, and wow, yeah, and confront so much. That has humbled me so completely.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when it's scary, and then there are times when it is the most freeing thing in the world to just completely tell the truth, and to go to seek the truth, and to know that there is truth, and just to know that that's the ultimate goal for me, is truth. And truth for me, because health is vitally, I mean, that's one of my personal pivotal needs, is that true health. So I look for truth when it comes to health, and then also truth when it comes to how I truly feel, instead of trying to manipulate my feelings, and just being with them. Yeah, so interesting. Well, cool. We've gone through our time.
Awesome.
Anything else you want to share?
I'll say the last little bit of like what happens after death. I think that Mark put it the best way, which is you're here and you're now. And that if you're living in accordance with what you think will happen after you die or what will happen in the future, you're not actually living. You're just a slave to a new construct instead. The idea of heaven and hell, as interesting of a concept as it is, right? I read Dante's Inferno. I read the whole thing. I read the whole Divine Comedy, which was really an interesting read. I think that is a falsehood, and that is just an idea being peddled to keep people in control so they live passive lives without actually trying to do anything or confronting the people in power, and especially in like the churches. Reincarnation is something similar, where it probably, that's like, okay, that idea, I think, that could exist, but I don't think that what you do in this life is going to affect how you come out the next life, because
you don't think so? So he did talk about how the quality of your next life, or wherever you will be, it will be related to the quality and the content of what you put out in this life with your mind and your.
I think that it will, if you take time to invest. So like, for instance, the skills that I might have would be piano, or it might be some physical activity where I have dexterity with my hands there. That is what I would be considering. I don't think that if you do, let's take Hitler. I don't think that the best thing would be, okay, put him in a horrible life. No, reincarnate as something better. And just take whatever's good. I think you take the good, and that is what affects your next life. But you should not be like this.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that
is why you are punished in the moment. You are punished for the actions that you do in this body. But as soon as that body is,
so then as soon as you say punished, that's an institutional idea that of punishment and rewards and punishment.
This is what I mean by like, okay, so how do you affect somebody who's a mass murderer and shooting people? What do you do to that? I'm using punish because we both immediately know what that word means. And we don't need to discuss for an hour deciding what word needs to be replaced for that. So somebody who is an awful person is going to be affected in an awful way in this life, and in the next life they have a brand new chance.
But if they're a sociopath, they don't even give a flying F. They don't care.
So in that life, what's going to happen? Are they going to be brought back? I just think that it would be,
I don't know,
that nothing you do will affect your previous life, and this does not. And the same way that like there's no heaven or hell, I think there needs to be understanding that, okay, you will be held accountable right now, and that this is not just giving people a free reign of, okay, I have no responsibility then. There are people who actively do good things because they are afraid of going to hell, and this is where, okay, that's okay, that's fine. Because if the other option is, there's no heaven or hell, so I'm going to just shoot up a school or whatever, I'm just going to steal and loot and riot.
Yeah, I don't know, boy.
So
There's so
that's
much.
just a
There's so
loaded
much
question.
because,
It's a loaded question there.
well, exactly. And then we could talk about the mind control of the MK Ultra and how literally
All of
people.
that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
All this chat.
So as we go, can you read that?
Sure. So
There must be a better
Human
word
health.
than truth. Yeah, I don't know what
Yeah,
there would be.
the thing is, it's the
The
same
only
thing with
truth is we don't know anything. No, I disagree with that. There are things that can be known. I mean, that goes back to Mark's definition. Mark's talking about solipsism, which he started
even
with
that's
the whole
his
thing.
own definition. I think this is where
Well,
were how we were
solipsism is a
talking about-
word that,
What I mean is like this, where we're talking about how fear has different meanings, like what I think
fear
actually-
has many meanings. You look at the
Same
dictionary,
with-
it's like 50 different definitions.
Right. And also, but truth inherently, it's okay to use that word, but it's important that you then also understand and you give context for how you're using it, because you can't just say that this is my truth, because it's not, because truth doesn't belong to any one person.
Well, truth based on
Ideally,
is what is. It's what
exactly,
is.
it's what is. So
Not what's
the
pretended to
truth-
be or made up about it or perceived about it or altered.
The
It's
truth
what
is
is.
this
It's
is
tangibly.
green, but that's not true. But that's not true, because humans made this color. Humans made this idea. We assigned
And
something to
identify.
this.
Yeah.
So we made an identifier. An identifier for this. So this is
Yeah.
not, the truth is this is not a green bottle. The truth is that this is the truth is, if I were to cut myself with this, it would hurt and I would bleed. The truth is this is made of wood.
Yeah, no, this
Or
is
something
definitely
like that. Like, this
something.
is-
Yeah.
You have to dive in each one, because okay, well, is wood the actual name for nature, like for trees? Is that what it is, or
Right.
that's just another thing that humans gave?
See, this is worth discussing. This is worth having discussions, because I think it's beneficial to stretch our brain, to challenge it, and to imagine bigger and different. So,
Mhm.
in terms of even health, what works for one can kill another. Probably true, but generally
But that's the
speaking,
thing.
water, too much water. Yes, if you've just been
That's
without water for
overabundance. This is where, but even if you haven't been without water for weeks, scientists tell you don't, or not even scientists, just people who've explored this, who have done this. Oh yeah, you don't want to just drink water because your body can't handle that. You need to have small sips and acclimate yourself back to like what you say, 15 ounces or 3 ounces every 15 minutes, right?
4 ounces every 30
4
minutes.
ounces every 30 minutes is right. Sorry for
About
me,
that,
because
yeah.
I was sweating a lot. So
Correct. Yes, then that was more.
So
correct.
that's what you need to do. That's how you acclimate yourself back to having water. You don't want to just go crazy and just start chugging, because then you'll be sick and you'll get yourself sick. The same way that overeating.
And then I'll just say coffee stained mug. So on that, I would say that this is where self-responsibility, self-rulership, self-knowing is vital, because true health is about knowing yourself and knowing what your body needs, and being in alignment with eating the things that are appropriate and necessary for your physical body. I think we've gone so far away from just what is real food, whole food.
If we look at the items that are actually whole foods, no one is allergic to them. When you get to the other processed stuff, when you get to the other like no one is allergic to healthy greens or a healthy piece of meat, right? No one is actually really allergic to that. It's when it's processed, and obviously it's very strict. That's why I'm not saying that. Okay, some people are allergic to apples or oranges or bananas. Okay, yeah, that's true.
But then we could look at their history. What is their history? What has happened, especially in the last few hundred years, with regards to the degeneration or being given a vaccination or given a shot that actually has some portion of it, and then the body is then attacking that. Let's say like when they put peanuts into shots, and then so many were allergic to it after that, or whatever. I mean, there's so much in that with regards to health I think it has to go back to the individual taking radical personal responsibility for their own health, their own
Yep.
thoughts, but not then projecting onto another what their
What they think
beliefs,
is the best.
yeah,
Exactly.
or what someone is feeling. That we each have to, I have to work hard not to give my opinion, and really just coach and guide another. Even
Yeah.
though my career is to coach, I used to, give my opinion constantly, but ultimately the individual has to. I mean, that's really about what it is, and that's why I move more towards leadership. Leadership is about empowering another to lead themselves, to own their own thoughts and their mind and their health and their, yeah. But truth
Yeah.
truth is not subjective, and that I will absolutely
Yeah.
stick with, because
And there's
I
one thing that's as well, that the only truth is we don't know anything yet. Well, saying that is acknowledging that we know that we're ignorant. So we do know something. We know that, at least, first and foremost.
that we don't know. Yeah.
That is something where you can actively look out for true objective truth.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to say
Interesting.
that. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, fabulous. Thank you so much for commenting. That was good. It's nice to have comments in there and hear what's going
Yeah.
on. So thanks again for being here. I would highly recommend, if you're not actually listening to the podcast yourself or going through it, I would highly recommend it. Encourage you to share it with others and then have a discussion with them about this, because I think this is how we grow. I think this is how we can expand our own awareness and ignite our own imaginations and collaboratively come up with something better to create what on earth is happening, and recognize truth when we see it. I think most of what's projected on the digital screens is not truth. And the only way to be able to decipher that is you have to know what truth is, so that you can look at that and go, wow, that is not true. So, I mean, I think I would work on for yourself what the definition of truth is for yourself, so that you can be able to go and look at what's truth. What is true? What is true? Not
Absolutely.
perceptions like, oh, my perception is this waterfall is beautiful. My perception is, this oak tree that's growing out of someone's lawn. It's like, oh my gosh, that's so precious. That's what I said yesterday. I was like, there's this oak tree. That's an oak tree right there in someone's lawn. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And they're like, get that out of there. I was like, well, it was my perception. It wasn't necessarily true or false.
Yeah. No, that's just what you have to live by.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
good, all right.
Thanks
Thank you. I love you, Mama.
Sending you so much love for your tournament this weekend.
Thank you.